Find your seat. We're going to start the questions. There are quite a lot, as you can imagine, and feel free to leave as you need to. We'll probably run over a little bit of time, so just stay as long as you want, and go ahead and feel free to go when you need to. All right, everyone get your seats. Take a seat. So it's asked, what did you mean when you said the new covenants are in place?
Well, back in April, when the CMP was passed by the board, they also passed the new protective covenants, which, interestingly enough, have all been changed from the old covenants. And I've not studied those, by the way. I've looked them over a few times. I have studied the CMP, but the covenants themselves have been, let's call it, modified for the implementation of the CMP. In other words, they've changed the covenants so that all the building codes and everything that they want to do is consistent with the CMP. And there's a myriad of things in there, but it's things like they've changed the noise level so that contractors can hammer all day long and make noise in the village and not, let's call it, offend the old covenants as far as noise protection, those kind of things. It's all been changed, and that's what I meant by the covenants, but they've been passed as well. Okay,
next question. Is this the same plan as Twiggs tried to push through?
I do not know the answer to that question. I'll tell you what I've heard, and again, this is all my opinion, is he had a similar plan, and of course, this current CEO was working with him, I believe, on this plan, but I had, no? No. His two assistants were working with that, but somehow she adopted parts of the CMP. Okay, it was called the Master Plan Workbook.
It was taken off the website.
Okay, so she took it down and then created the new CMP as we know it today. Is that correct?
Okay, next question. What happens to the $500,000 payment the HSV Board of Directors paid if the program fails to develop?
It's gone. And you know, the interesting thing about that is, I think that's a part of the problem. I think the board sits there and says, wow, maybe this isn't such a good idea. And by the way, I've talked to several people on the board that I don't think have read the CMP. I asked them some specific questions and they didn't know the answers to them. And so I think what they're thinking is, my God, we've spent $500,000 on this thing. We can't turn around now. Let's ignore Phil Lemler and all the other villagers. I mean, there's numerous people out here that have knocked on their door and made presentations and tried to get them to sit down and take a realistic look at this, and they have ignored everybody to the point where none of them will talk to me, as I said earlier. So I think they've spent the money, and they cannot now go, well, it's a bad idea, we're sorry we spent $500,000, because they're worried about our repercussions. And they should be. How many board members are here?
Do we have any board members here tonight? willing to.
By the way, just so you know, tonight's presentation was originally designed for me on stage to debate Leslie Nally, the CEO. She declined. I offered to debate her. I offered to debate anybody from the board. I offered to debate their consultants. I said, bring your marketing people in here. I'll debate anybody you want to debate because this thing is so rotten. There's no way you could stand up here and support this thing with a straight face. As you can see, nobody showed up. Go ahead.
How can the members actually stop the CMP when 7 board members and 1 POA manager can do this CMP without our consent?
Well, the problem is the way all of the documents are written is they have the authority to do this. The board passed the CMP, which I think is wrong. They didn't need our consent to do that, which is a part of my long-term plan, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds. I think we need to reorganize the board. Not only do we need... Not only do we need business people that have a voice in the process, but we also need a structure. Things like the CMP, who would ever allow something like this to be passed without all of us voting on it? I mean, this is not like a pool. This is not like adding a second 9 on a golf course. This is a complete transformation of everything we moved here to get. Why would we allow this? Why would a board and the documents that go along with it be structured so that we would not have a say in it? But to answer your question, we don't have a say. We gave them the right to do this based upon the documents that exist. They passed it. It's the law of the land. Unless we convince them through sheer force that we don't want this. The ultimate backup plan is for next spring, when we put in new board members, is to make sure we get board members that are going to shut this thing down. That's what we have to focus on. One last comment. And in the interim, we need to put enough pressure on them through letting them know we're dissatisfied, where they don't get too much passed, where they can't go through we want to spend this amount, we want to put this in the budget. We need to argue that all the way through with the hopes we can get to April, get a new board in there, or March, or whenever that happens, and get this thing stopped, and get a right plan and to go.
Yes, they did.
Yes.
The question was, did they pass the CMP before the new board came in? And they did. They did it at the very last. On purpose. If you have a further question, would you raise your hand and we can get a card to you? Okay, next question. Can you... All right, can you hear me? Okay. Can property owners be assigned debt by courts if POA defaults on the loans?
Yes, absolutely. They have, if you read the bylaws and the other documents that they operate by, they can go get loans, they can do all sorts of things that are acting on our behalf. And we end up holding the bag, unfortunately. And again, part of the reason I think we need some of this restructured, I think we need tighter controls. I think we need a board that manages the village management as opposed to the village management managing the board.
Okay, the next question, this has to do with access to our website. And some people have asked, how do they get access to the website when it does not send me a confirmation email? It doesn't send you a confirmation email. I'm sorry if that is what it's saying, and I will check on that. You can access that web page just by typing in www.wetheHSVpeople.com. then you're into it. Then from there, you can click on any of the tabs and see what's been posted. Okay. This is a good one. What is the donation money used for? I can answer that one myself. I set up a GoFundMe page, and even though the GoFundMe page now says we've raised, I think we're at $3,200. That's really awesome. But the majority of that money has been spent. A good portion of it went with the ads that are going to continue to be placed in the Village Voice prior to each forum. Also, the rental of this room was a substantial cost, and now the next 2 forums will be at the Woodlands Theater. So we did have to spend a little bit more, but we can't have a big crowd like this in here because they're worried about capacity. Also just incidentals, pens, pencils, just a lot of stuff, the handouts that you're going to get tonight when you leave.
PowerPoint presentation.
Right. So that's where your money's going, and you guys donated it. The POA spent our money without asking us. So we're running this on a pretty streamlined budget. So I appreciate all of your contributions. What do we have to do to stop the CMP? How far has our commitment gone to do this as of today?
Well, as I stated earlier, the CMP has been passed, the protective covenants have been passed, and they're now going to start budgeting for the implementation of this. If you look at the June 20th board meeting presentation that was presented regarding the implementation of the CMP, the first 2 things they do is they talk about finding a developer for the town center and finding a developer for the Coronado Center. Those are the 2 big projects that they're looking for. We need to convince them not to take those steps. The only way I know of, since this is passed, is we need to show up at these budget meetings. We need to show up at board meetings. We need to write letters. We need to en masse convince these folks that we can't allow this thing to pass. That's all we have at this point in time because it's already in motion. So the only thing we can do is drag our feet, try to keep them from spending any of the money in this thing while we put a new board into place. And that's what the petitions are for. That's what the letter writing campaign is all for, is to try to convince them to stop this.
Okay, can you guys hear me still? I pinned this on me. All good in the back? You can hear? Okay. Question. How do we reach the property owners who do not live here in the village? This is a big issue because there's so many of them. And Miss Nally and some POA folks are going to go out and do their, I call it a dog and pony show, but I didn't say that. But that's what they're going to do. You can answer that. You know what they're going to do.
Well, of course, in our next forum is on the declarations. And what they're doing now is they're going around the country to present the declarations as a positive step. They're going to Oklahoma City, and Dallas, and Rouge, and somewhere in Florida, and Boca Raton, 2 cities in Illinois, and it's to convince the non-resident property owners to approve the declarations.
But the good news is, and this is the next question, are we going to have some cities at this go to some of the cities at the CMP? It's hard to hear you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk over here. Okay, are we going to the same cities that the CMP is going to, that they're going to promote it? There will be representatives from We the People or others that will be going to every single one of their. I think this has already been asked. What's Phil Lemler's background? You already shared all that, didn't you? Okay. Land to be developed. How does the VOA get ownership of these lots?
This is an interesting question. It's one of the other central stupidities of the CMP. There's something in a typical municipality called eminent domain. I'm sure most of you have heard of that. And it gives that city the right to come in and take your lot over if it benefits the community for development. We do not have that here. So their theory is they're going to build this town center over how many ever acres it's going to cover, and they've not even considered what they're going to do about all the lot owners in there. Now, I don't know about you, but if I own the lot under the grocery store, I'm holding out for more money. And so is everybody else. In fact, there'll be speculators. There'll be people out buying those lots simply for the fact of holding on for higher prices. Now, what does that do to the construction cost? What do you think a developer's going to think of that? He's going to think it's probably a poorly thought out plan. Am I right, Chuck? Absolutely. And so they've got no way to get those on a logical basis other than just hope that people give up their lots, I guess. Or maybe they're going to trade them for a lot out by Lazy Poe or whatever it happens to be. That's right. Great point, Marcy. The other thing is that all of the divisions between our lots. So if I own a lot and Sam Smith owns the lot next to me, in between those are easement rights. 7.5 feet in
from your lot line
on every side, which basically means that not only do they need lot owners' approval to do this development, but they need CCI's approval to do this development. Again, something that nobody seems to have thought of, at least it's not in the CMP. I just cannot believe that anyone would construct a plan of this detail with this much stuff in it and not think about the basics of how are we going to get the lots? Minor detail.
Next question is, how can we put a moratorium on spending enough wasted money already?
We need to put a board in place that thinks like we do, that would act responsibly like we do, with enough people where we can control those kind of votes and put that moratorium in place. From what I've seen, I think there's an undue amount of influence from the CEO level to the board. This is just my personal opinion. Please don't sue me. But I think it should be the other way around. I think anytime I've had a manager work for me, I give them a very specific set of goals and objectives, and we measure those on a regular basis. You didn't meet your numbers, tell me why. Okay, maybe we need to correct the plan, maybe we need to change the numbers, but this is your job, you report to me. I don't think it's working that way here in the village. So there's not going to be any moratoriums when the upper management can simply spend at will. It's like, striping the village for $55,000 and hiring a PR firm to help us communicate the declarations. Those are all within the power of our existing management to be able to do. We need to change that. Okay?
Will your slides be available on website to download and review? They will be. We're going to post them on our Facebook and also on our webpage. We have a professional person here that's taping this evening. So you will have, that's the main way we know how we're going to get it out right now. If that might expand, I just don't know that yet. Depends on how much money we get. We're doing our best. How can the board act unilaterally on the CMP? Already did.
Well, because we've given them the power to do that. We have the documents in place that basically allows them certain flexibility in how they operate and how they make decisions and how the process goes. You know, typically the way it works, as I understand it, is the CEO will make a recommendation of, I want to do this, this, and this, and the board then goes through the process of approving that. We've assigned our rights to these people to do that, which is why it's so important that we elect good board representatives. We need people that are, can you not hear?
Any way to recall the board from
At this point in time, I don't know. I have heard that there is, but the question was, is there any way to recall the board? Not that I'm aware of, but I've heard rumors that there are, but I'm not here to deal with that tonight. But the point is, we need good board members. We can't put somebody on the board because they're a friend. Well, I golf with him, and you know, Joe, he's really a good guy, and he's running for the board, so I'm going to vote for him. We need to pay attention to who we're putting on this board, because as you can see, they're in control of our future. And if we put bad people on the board, and I'm not saying the board members are bad, I think they're all good people. I think they have the best interests of the village at heart. I just think they're misaligned. They don't understand what's going on. They don't have the big picture. They certainly don't have the business experience from a large strategic standpoint to drive these kind of programs. So we need to really carefully select the people we put on the board.
Okay.
No, I will not run. And by the way, I just want to correct I've been getting some emails around the village, and one of them said, you know, Lemler, he said, you've been nothing but a complainer ever since you moved here. You know, you're always writing letters to the editor, you're always speaking up at board meetings, asking for stupid stuff. And I got to tell you, I've never been to a board meeting before until June 20th. I've never written a letter to the editor. I've never been to a committee meeting. I've never done anything because I really don't care if they build a swimming pool in the middle of Ponce Golf Course, if that's what they decide to do. But I do care if they're going to trash the village. I do care if they're going to drive our property values down and make a huge transformative mistake like they're making now. But no, I'm not running for that.
Next question, I can answer this one. Why not invite the master board, I'm assuming the board, to our meetings? I personally sent a letter to Ms. Snally and invited her to come, and she sent me a letter the next day and said she would not be able to attend.
And I invited them as well. I ran into Mr. Weiss at the meeting after the declarations meeting a couple of Tuesday nights ago and invited him again to come, and they don't want to come. And I was told, and I don't know if this is true, but they said the reason they're not attending is that they were concerned for their health and welfare at this. Like we were all going to raise up with pitchforks and torches and run them out of town. I don't know. Just what I heard.
Yeah. This is a question not really posed. The only thing that I think can stop the CMP is for the board of directors to not fund the projects.
Well, they cannot fund the project. I mean, they can vote not spending any money at all. The problem is that while they're doing that, we're out potentially signing agreements with developers. That's not a board decision. You know, that's the CEO and the different levels of management, the director of placemaking or the tourism director. By the way, why would you have a director of tourism? These are the people that are out potentially getting us committed to things that we shouldn't be committed to. And I'm sure that ultimately the board would have to approve any developer agreement, but I don't know that.
Okay, next question. What is the impact of the CMP if the declaration vote articles declaration and articles vote doesn't get approved?
That is a subject that will be dealt at We the People's next seminar. Forum, excuse me.
Thank you.
And I don't know the answer to that. It's real interesting. If you look at the declarations, I'm just going to talk real quickly on this. If you look at the declarations, they seem to me to be pretty logical. I mean, if you look at them one by one, those are all things that we probably should be doing for the long term, but there's just something about everything that really makes me leery. I don't trust what's going on anymore. I've been lied to 2 or 3 times by different people in power positions. So you lie to me once, I can forgive you. If you lie to me twice, I don't trust another thing that you say. So I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm sure Lori will have much more details at the next forum.
Yes, we'll have a speaker that will.
This will be well before the vote.
Right, so be sure to attend. What will it take to get all villagers to vote for or against the CMP? It's already been voted on.
We don't get to vote for the CMP.
Right.
The CMP is passed. It's already law of the land, and so we don't get to vote on it. I think we all agree we should, but we don't.
If you are against the CMP, where is your optional plan?
Well, interesting enough, I have an optional plan. I've got a very detailed marketing plan that I think would work. But there is no point. In fact, I've met with some of the board members and have offered them in emails to not only act as an advisor to get them out of this mess that they got themselves in, but also to introduce another plan. In fact, I asked Mr. Weiss at the Tuesday meeting we just talked about, I said, I have a plan. And he says, well, I'm not interested, you got to go give it to Leslie. And I said, but Leslie won't talk to me. He says, well, I can't help you, and he runs off to his car. So there's no point in introducing my plan, which is really just one of many plans. I mean, I've talked to numerous people here in the village that have excellent ideas that we could be doing that don't tear up the heart of the village and do things that would help us become profitable. I mean, this is not a big deal. We just need to create more revenue. We've got one of the greatest places on earth. I know we can create more revenue here. There's lots of ways to do it. So I have a plan. It's not really worth going into. I can tell you this, is we are a retirement community. We're an active lifestyle retirement community. I don't care what anybody says and how many millions of dollars you spend, we're still going to be an active lifestyle retirement community. And you know what? Every day, today, in the United States, 10,000 people retired today. Yesterday, 10,000 more people retired. You know what's going to happen tomorrow? Yeah, 10,000 more people retired. Why don't we have marketing programs that are going after those folks?
The next question is, will these meetings be covered in the Village Voice? Yes, they are. Lewis has been here this evening. He probably still is. We also have KVRE here tonight, recording and taking notes. We did ask the Centennial, is that what it's called, from Hot Springs? Sorry, we did ask them to come. I'm not sure if they are participating or not. This question, where did this go? Because I wanted to address that. Okay, this question I know comes from Mr. Sowers, wherever you are, because he's asked this twice now to me and someone else, and he's been answered. Sorry.
Go ahead, read it.
What volunteer or other work did Mr. Lemler perform for the village? Please be specific. Where have the We the People leaders and Mr. Lemler been involved? When? Be specific. This is verbatim what this person continues to ask me. Well, he got answered. He got his answer, so I'm not sure why this is being asked again. But go ahead.
Well, First of all, I am a speaker. Lori is We the People. I'm a hired hand to come in and present the CMP. But I've done a lot of volunteering, not specifically here in the village, because as I just described to you before, I've had no need to volunteer in the village. I've been happy with everybody's done, and you can argue this point versus that point. I never felt compelled to have to get involved in something before. This was so bad, and that's why I'm here tonight. I've been here 10 years, and I've never seen anything so terrible. But I am a volunteer. I volunteered for 4 years at the Jackson House in Hot Springs, every Sunday feeding the homeless people. I was involved in turnaround the Humane Society of Garland County when it was running out of money and mismanaged. I've done all sorts of volunteer work. Right now, I'm in the process of producing a television show for a guy who died, and I'm trying to help his wife and 11 kids get their feet back together and to be able to get, some help in their life. He just passed away, and they're left with nothing. So I volunteer. It's not like I'm this ogre that hides in the woods somewhere and doesn't do anything. I'm just not. So, Mr. Sowers, wherever you are, if that was your question, if you believe that volunteer here in the village is a credible issue and it makes me qualified or unqualified to be able to stand up here and dissect something that's so rotten, a high school business class wouldn't have passed this, then so be it.
And I'm just going to add one thing. I too volunteer, but by far, this is the biggest volunteer that I've done. It started because I heard voices all over, and I thought, we need to coalesce. We need to have some places like a Facebook and meetings and the website so our voices could be heard. So that's how it started, with a little article to the editors, Village Voice editors, and then I ran home and set up the GoFundMe page, and then I ran over here and put the deposits down because I was afraid if Leslie found out beforehand that she would interfere with that. So that's how it all happened. Next question. Has We the People contacted CCI to get their support in saving existing village?
No comment.
Okay. Well, I can say I contacted them. I wrote an email because I wanted to get verification after that last POA expose Leslie Nally did in the village boys, because there were so many questions and it was more confusing. So I fired off an email asking for some clarification, but I didn't get that clarification, so yet. What about the empty buildings now? Why did CMP get passed without us voting? We've already gone there.
Just what the CMP says about the empty buildings, it's really amazing. They say, well, those failed because there's no demand to justify it.
If the CMP is already a done deal, what good will the petitions do?
Personally, I don't know. I wish I would have gotten involved in this much sooner, before this was passed. Unfortunately, I could not. It's a much tougher hill to climb now that it's passed. We've got to work that much harder. We've got to let them know without question. I keep going back to that they are dead set convinced and will swear on a stack of Bibles that there's more people in the village that are for this CMP. It's got to be all people that didn't read it. But there's more people for the CMP than against it. So I think our biggest challenge is to effectively convince them that indeed there's more people against this than are for it. That's the only thing we can do, Marcy.
Marcy?
I'd like to say that with next board meeting, if 4 people
let's say that again.
She said if at the next board meeting, 4 members of the board voted to stop the CMP, not fund it any further, it would be stopped. You know who the board members are.
So
Pitchforks and
hold your
torches.
question. So I wanted to say about these petitions, my intent with these petitions and the one that's online is to provide them to our board of directors so they can see that the people are speaking. So I want them to see the collective effort in writing. We have a lot of petitions signed today, so go on the website and sign more.
Very good.
And, okay, do you have a question?
Didn't they, some kind of, not too far, pass something that if all the board didn't agree, you
No.
didn't agree with most of it?
Well, that's a different question, and we got to stick with the CMP. Okay. How do we terminate our CEO?
The board has to do that.
Yes, the board needs to do that. So I have a question here that says, the declaration and article votes that are coming up, my understanding is that they will support the implementation of the CMP.
Yes, I can see some areas where that's true, but I've not studied them to the point where I could make that affirmative statement. I don't like to comment on things until I thoroughly research it, and I don't have a position today. I don't know how I'm personally going to vote on those yet, but I'll guarantee you after this, because I've spent the last month reading and rereading the CMP and studying it and talking to people throughout the country and doing a lot of analysis of it. Now I'll be freed up from that and I can spend some time thinking about the declarations. But I don't know. My guess is it may or it may not. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say for us, for the people, we just took a position this week and we are voting no on all the declarations. So that all that confusion and we're just going to vote across the board now. But there's just more to it than what we have been presented with information. Okay, what staff members are currently in place to implement this CMP? Do you know?
I don't know specifically because I'm sure a lot of them are wearing a couple of hats, but I do know that we have people in place that are working on the CMP, correct, Marcy?
If you recall at the last presentation by the consultants, the economist got up and said, point blank, the POA needs help in employment, basically, or directorship in understanding development, which we do not have at this point, and also 3 people that they suggested in different situations in marketing, which we don't have at this point.
Yeah, and so I don't know specifically. I can't point to this guy was hired for the implementation, but I do know they're all looking at it. And if you got some free time, go into the CMP and look at their implementation plans. There is page after page after page after page after page of the CEO's going to do this, the board's going to do this, the CEO's going to do this, the board's going to do this. And you sit back and I go, my God, these people are never going to have time to sleep. There is so much on their plate and they can't deal with what they have now. You wonder where all of this is going to come from. And a part of this is hiring people and putting people on board. They're looking for marketing people and a director of marketing. And it's just mind-boggling.
Okay, we're getting through these, so hang in there. Does We the People have a plan to meet the pending Doom of deficits. Our plan is to get board members changed so that we can stop having a CEO that just keeps continuing to spend our money and the board that rubber stamps it. That's our goal. And then here's another one. Please separate for us the issues of CMP amendment votes. That's coming up. Separate for us the issue. We need to come to the next forum, which will be at the Woodlands on, I have this somewhere. Oh, it'll be in the handout. When you walk out this today, you'll get a handout that says venue change and also is a synopsis of what Bill spoke about tonight. So it's September 26th, same time, 5:30 to 7:30, same day, just at Woodlands. Okay. Same question, declarations, and ties it into the CMP. You will learn a lot there. Right.
It started.
Yes.
That's what we believe. We believe that.
I know it's exactly what you're already working and dealing with. And one of her jobs is
Okay. Well, we were going to be. Yeah. Someone just asked me if we're taking audience participation, enough with the questions. I think this is audience participation. If you have a question. Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard you. Don't what? Yeah, okay, yes, okay, that's what they're saying. Don't take any more questions from the floor. If you have a question, raise your hand, we'll get a card to you. Thank you. Sorry, I misunderstood. If I write a letter to the board, will someone on the board read it and share it with the entire board, or will it be screened out by someone? Oh, okay. Who are you, sir?
I'm Tom Ament, and I think you can hear me. I'm Tom Ament, and I've been in the village 21 years. About a month ago, I wrote a letter to 3 members of the board, and it outlined a series of questions that were financial in nature, which I was looking for answers to. I was then advised by one of the board members, wow, I'd like to hear from people. Why don't you send it to the whole board? So I did. That's a month ago, and I haven't heard an answer from anyone. But I will tell you, I know for a fact, if you send an inquiry to all the members of the board, you will only get an answer through the president of the board.
That's correct.
Which is a total departure of what it was for the first 15 years I was here.
Thank you. That is very true. What legal options do we have to gain access to the contact information, address, email, phone number of all property owners, including non-residents? We don't.
I do not know the answer to that
Yes.
question. There's been lots of things that I've tried to get my hands on, like the Trent agreement, as well as some other things, and I don't think we can. I don't think we're going to get those. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an answer to that.
There is an answer to that. I didn't mean to be interrupted.
Just short answer.
This will be very quick. There is an answer to that question on how being able to get a hold of the people. I set an appointment up on Tuesday at 8 o'clock to go up and see everything. By the way, my name is Brian Darce. My reputation precedes me quite a bit.
Okay.
Yes, I was in the paper. Anyway, they have to be able, to any member in good standing, make available everything.
Well,
Everything, and that's in the bylaws.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing on Tuesday at 8 a.m.
great. We hope that you can get those emails That's what we really need. Thank you. What is the difference between developing the shopping retail centers and the failed DeSoto Center, Ponderosa Center, Fuel Stop? Well,
I think that answers itself.
yeah. So where will all these young people that the CMP is planning to have here attract to the town center? Where are they going to work?
At the barber shop, yeah, the leather shop. The 10 restaurants.
Okay, are you aware that Nally has a real estate office and 2 associates who are being paid by the residents? We have many real estate companies, and that they are taking business, and they're taking business from us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Another item that's deep in the CMP, they suggest that we start a maintenance division, which basically means if your toilet gets stopped up or you need someone to hang Christmas lights, the POA is going to start a division to come out and help you with those sort of things. We're going to put the realtors out of business. We're going to put all the handymen out of business. Ridiculous.
Okay. I think we answered this already. How many employees have been hired to implement the CMP and what positions? We don't know.
We have the right to know that, but
Yeah.
based on current circumstances, I doubt. It's like pulling teeth. Very difficult to arrive at that information.
Okay, can we request a delay in the implementation of the entire CMP? You answered that.
We can request it. They are not legally obligated to do so. But I would think if I were a board member and all these people were thoroughly and aggressively against this, you would have to stop and reconsider what they've done. So I don't know. There's nothing we can do to delay it other than change the board or convince the existing board to stop and take a second look.
You might have already teased this out when you did your research of 504 pages of CMP several times. The question is, what are the projected population numbers for our village at 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, without the CMP?
Whoa, I have no idea. You can look at the numbers as far as the number of building permits and the number of new houses that they're building. But see, in my idea of a plan is that's like filling up a leaky bucket. So you've got people coming in buying a house, but there's other people moving. And they're going to places like assisted living facilities and places where they need more care. If I were going to develop something in the village, that's what I would put here. I'd build a community for assisted living where maybe in the center of it you have a exercise facility and a cafeteria and maybe some doctor's offices and urgent care facilities in a central area, and then build housing around that. Because when I get to the point where I don't want to mow the yard anymore, or I need someone to come in and help me with my daily chores, I don't want to leave the village. But right now that happens. So I move out somewhere, someone else buys my house. From a business standpoint, the village loses $67 out one end and has another $67 in. If we had somewhere for these people to go, we double our income because the $67 stays and moves into assisted living facility, and the new $67 comes in. So now we've got 100 and calculator. There you go. So it's things like that, but I have no idea of the growth projections or where it's going to go because I don't have those statistics. If we could get that information from the board and the management, I'm sure we can figure that out. But it's not enough. You know, whatever we're getting now is definitely not enough, and that's the reason we've got the $7 million a year deficit, is we're not feeding enough people into the village here. We need a marketing strategy that does that.
Okay, this is our last question. Can we use the Freedom of Information Act to get some answers? And I know the answer to that, no, because we are a non-profit, so it cannot be done here. So we're going to wrap up the evening. Thank you all for attending. Before you get up and leave, there is a handout of Phil's synopsis you can take as you're leaving. And if you are a couple, would you be kind enough to take one? Because I didn't expect this big of a crowd. I only made 400 copies, so. All right, thank you all.
Thank you very much.